Hello viewers, welcome to a lecture series on marketing management, and today we are going to talk with you about pricing decision and strategy. This is going to be part 2 of our lectures on the same topic. In the previous lecture of mine, I gave you a brief outlook about what exactly this pricing decision is, what are the different factors that affect our pricing decisions, and what are the different orientations with which marketers are deciding their pricing objectives, their pricing goals. And now I'll tell you about the pricing decisions and strategy. So this lecture of mine is going to have a greater emphasis or focus on pricing strategies. So whatever discussion will actually hold here, we'll talk about pricing strategies, we'll talk about factors that affect price from the strategic perspective, and in what manner marketers are changing their pricing strategy with every stage of a product life cycle, because a product actually passes through different stages of its life. So accordingly the price is going to be determined, and what should be the pricing policy. So all these things are clubbed as an agenda for this very lecture of mine. So let me tell you about price strategy. When I talk about strategy, I actually mean to indicate towards development of an effective price strategy, which is an important part of a marketing plan. Why it is a very important part of a marketing plan? Because it actually enables a marketer to set prices which are consistent with their objectives and also appropriate for their target market. So there are two things which are very important. One is that whatever pricing strategy you craft or draft, it should be consistent with your objective. So whatever orientation you have decided, whether it is sales orientation, competitors orientation, or market orientation, so accordingly your or profit orientation, that should be translated into your decision or into your strategy. And along with that, it should also be appropriate for your target market. Whatever is your target market, they should accept your pricing strategy, they should accept your pricing method. So there are different factors which affect price that I am going to discuss with you in detail here, and this is something which I did not discuss deliberately in the previous segment of my lectures on the topic, because there we wanted to have a brief discussion, and here we will have elaborated one, because I will be telling you that commensurating to these factors, what should be the pricing strategy. It can be your cost and expense, it can be supply and demand, it can be consumers' perceptions, competition, government regulations, and technological trends. So these factors actually affect price of a company. These are the factors which are very important. Some of them they are internal to the company, and some of them they are external to the company, and likewise it can be classified as controllable and uncontrollable factors also. So now let me elaborate these components. The first one is cost and expenses. When I say cost, it can be classified into two parts. One is fixed cost, another is variable cost. Fixed cost and expenses, for instance rent, utilities, insurance premium, salary, these are called as fixed cost. They do affect our pricing. And remember, fixed cost and expenses, which they are not subject to change depending on the number of units sold. They have no impact, there is no impact of change in selling units on your fixed cost. They are constant. So regardless of your units sold, the fixed cost, they are fixed in nature. So the total cost is fixed, whether you sell 100 units or you sell 500 units or you sell 200 units, fixed cost is constant. There is another cost, variable cost. Of course, as the name itself is suggesting, it varies with the increase in production and sales. For instance, cost of goods and services, sales commissions, delivery charges, and advertising, they do affect price, and they vary with the change in units sold. So they are subject to change depending on the number of units sold. So they do affect your price. They are the first component which are going to determine the price of a particular product, and we cannot ignore these expenses. They can be managed, they can be reduced, but they cannot be eliminated, because in order to provide those values in terms of products and services, we have to actually offer such values, we have to incur these expenses. So these some of them they are fixed, some of them they are variable, and when we club them together, they become total cost. So this total cost is going to determine the first component of our selling price, or the major component of our selling price is coming from, emanating from this cost. It cannot be ignored. It is always kept in mind by a marketer while drafting or crafting their pricing strategy. The next one is supply and demand. The law of supply and demand also affects the price. Of course, when the demand for a particular product is on a higher side and supply is low, you can command a high price. Because demand is very high and supply is constant, then there is an opportunity for you to command a high price. But if it is opposite, when the demand for a product is low and supply is high, a marketer must set lower prices, because supply is on a higher side and demand is less. So there is no point carrying those products into your godown only or into your store only. It is always advisable to sell them out. So a marketer must set a lower price. So in this way, supply and demand also have impact on the price of a product. The third component is consumer perception. Before we proceed for consumer perception, let me tell you that demand and supply is something which may be to some extent under the control of a marketer, but demand is never under the control of a marketer. It is coming from the market. So demand and supply, normally demand is considered as the uncontrollable factor or external to the company, and you have to somehow bear with them, you have to somehow manage with them. So your pricing is going to be decided based on this component as well. There can be a significant role of consumers' perception also. The price of your product helps create your image in the minds of customers. So if your prices are too low, of course customers may consider your product to be inferior, because they believe that quality is always paid, and it is to a larger extent it is true also. So if your prices are kept too low, of course customers may consider your product to be inferior, and there can be opposite scenario also. If your prices are too high, you may turn some customers away. There can be a chance of loss of customers also. That if you want your company to be known as a quality product manufacturing company, you have to keep this thing in mind while deciding your price, that your prices should not be that high, as high that you may lose some customers away, you may turn some customers away from your company. So consumer perception is a significant indication for you to decide your price, but it is risky also. You have to keep this thing in mind, that while deciding your price, there has to be a greater amount of rationality while deciding it, either too low or too high. You should be very particular, you should be very vigilant that it should not be too low to be called as an inferior company or product, or it should not be as high as that your customers are staying away from your company, your potential customers are maintaining a distance from you. That should not happen in any case. The next component is competition. Competition of course affects the pricing when the target market is price conscious, because competitors pricing may determine your pricing. Whatever your competitor is charging, you cannot charge beyond that, you cannot charge more than that. And if you want to do that, if you really want to charge more than what your competitors are charging, you will have to create some USP of your product. You have to use some unique selling proposition, you have to offer some value added advantage to your product. So businesses may charge higher prices than their competitors if they are offering value addition, they are offering added value, for instance personal attention, credit, warranties, or sometimes the additional guarantees on their products or services. So that can be done, but with slight changes. So competition is also one of the component which is going to affect our pricing strategy. And the most important one is government regulations. You cannot say that I'm not going to abide by the government regulation. So you have to go for abiding by the government regulations. Wherever you work, wherever you operate, you have to actually abide by the law of land. So if you are in India, you have to follow the Indian rules and regulations, commercial laws, and if you are in any other part of the world, accordingly the law of land is supposed to be implemented, supposed to be honored by you as a company. But there are certain instances where we find certain terms coming to us: price gouging, price fixing, resale price maintenance, unit pricing, bait and switch advertising. So these are some of the allegations which come in front of us. These are some of the pricing methods where companies are somehow using these methods, and it is called as unfair practices. So as a marketer, you have to be fair to customers and familiarize yourself with relevant laws which address pricing, and it includes all this. Either you call it price gouging, fixing, resale price maintenance, unit pricing, bait and switch advertising. Now I'll be telling you what is price gouging, what is bait and switch advertising, all these points in detail. but they actually come under government regulations. You have to abide by the government rules and regulations. So when I say when I have to define price gouging, I would say a company which engages in price gouging or price fixing is violating certain laws. There are certain laws which you are violating. What is that? What is price gouging? First we need to understand. It is an illegal practice. First of all, you should be clear that price gouging is an illegal practice in which competing companies agree for either formally or in a tacit manner to restrict prices within a specified range. You cannot have any such kind of agreement wherein you decide that there should not be any price change or price should be within a specified range. That is called price gouging or price fixing. So price fixing, pricing above the market when no other retailer is available, that is also not a legal way of making profit. Even if your company is having profit orientation, you are not supposed to get involved into this. In India it is of course prohibited, and in most part of the world it is strictly prohibited, it is regarded as illegal. So you should not engage in price gouging in any case, cause this is an illegal practice with which you should not indulge into, in which you should not indulge into as a marketer. So government regulation says, like in India we have Competition Act for that, and there different other enactments are also there, and you cannot have any formal or informal agreement to restrict prices within a specified range. Next is resale price maintenance. This is also illegal. Now what is resale price maintenance? This is a method of price fixing, another shade of price fixing imposed by a manufacturer. And what they do, the manufacturers, they are imposing such kind of price maintenance, the price fixing strategy on wholesalers or retailers. So they are actually telling them, telling wholesalers or retailers of their product to deter price based competition. They are actually implementing it through wholesale or retail resellers of its products to deter price based competition. It is illegal. Unit pricing, as we all know, the pricing of goods on the basis of cost per unit of measure in addition to other price per item is not allowed. It should always be a unit pricing based on the units of a product. You should determine the price. So the government regulation should always be honored. You should not get indulged into these kind of pricing strategies where you may make some short term gain, but in long run it is not going to offer you much of desired results. So government regulations do affect do play the significant role here. Next is unethical practices. For instance, bait and switch. This is one of the most popular allegation on marketers, which is illegal. They are not only illegal but also unfair to customers. It should not be done by any marketer. What is bait and switch? Let me tell you. Bait and switch is basically a deceptive method of selling in which a customer is attracted to a store by a sale priced item. That there is a selling price decided for a product, and customer is attracted to your store, and when you enter the store you are told by the salesperson available there that either that advertised item is unavailable or that it is inferior to a higher priced item that is available. So for instance, I am visiting a store and the salesman is saying whatever price, whatever product I am asking for, the person says that it is out of stock. But at the same time, I am told by the salesperson that the product which you are demanding is of inferior quality, we have a superior quality product which is higher priced. So in a way you are actually calling your customer to your doorstep and then switching, forcing them to switch to another higher price item, which is unethical, which is unfair. So that is why bait and switch is banned in many countries, and it is said that you should abide by the government rules and regulations, and even if it is not there into any enactment, it is considered to be an unfair practice by a marketer. So you should not indulge into such kind of practices. Next component is technological trends. The internet and technological trends, they do affect pricing strategy. So if you are adapting to technological changes, it can give an entrepreneur a competitive edge and if you are not adopting, and it of course it can cause some businesses to become obsolete. If you don't stay in sync with the latest changes in technology, then of course you are going to vanish. Nobody is going to take your products because you are technologically backward. Your products are going to be regarded as technologically backward, which is not good for you as a company. So, my dear learners, these are the factors that affect the pricing decision of a company, and while doing so, I told you clearly and in detail that when it comes to government regulations, all rules and regulations, what you call as law of land, they are supposed to be honored by a marketer in any part of the world. If you are operating, you should honor the law of land there, and while doing so, you should stay away from any unfair practices like bait and switch. As I told you, there are different other strategies, different other techniques of making money, making profit out of your pricing strategy or pricing decision. That should be avoided strictly. So, now coming to pricing strategy decision, remember that while going for formulating a strategy or taking a strategic decision, you should consider your target market as you make these pricing strategy decisions. So, you have to first select a basic approach to pricing, and then you should determine your pricing policy and eventually set a price which is based on the stage of the PLC, that is called product life cycle. So, the right sequence is, first you select a basic approach to pricing. What is my basic core approach to pricing as a company? Then I should determine my pricing policy, and eventually I would be setting a price which is based on the PLC of my product, the stage of PLC of the product with which I am dealing, with which I am operating. So, this is the right sequence of formulating pricing strategy or taking a strategic decision of your price. Now, coming to the first step, setting a basic price. So, there are three basic approaches to pricing. Either you go for cost based pricing, that is, you calculate the cost of your product and say that my pricing is going to be based on the cost of my product. The second is demand based pricing. Here we actually look at the demand of a product as the prominent basis, or for selecting the basic approach to pricing, that I would be going as per the demand of the product with which I am dealing. So, depending upon the demand, the price would be decided. The third one is competition based pricing, wherein competition is going to be a deciding component, deciding factor. So, we would be making a decision based on the competition only. So, competition based pricing can also be done. Marketers can make a choice out of any of these three basic approaches, but yes, of course, once you have decided, you can move on to the next step. So, either it can be cost based or demand based or competition based. Once you have decided your basic approach and your pricing method, the next is that you have to decide to decide your pricing policy, and after that you have to set a price which is based on the stage of your PLC. So, as we all know that in PLC there are 4 stages, starting from introduction to growth, maturity and decline. So, all products normally move through the 4 stages of the life cycle. The duration may differ for different types of product, but yes, every product has to go through these stages. They have to pass through these stages, starting from introduction to growth, then maturity and decline. So, I will be now telling you about the product life cycle pricing, because this is the point from where we come to know about the pricing policy which marketers are adopting. So, in the background there is the basic approach of a company and pricing policy. Once it is decided, they go for deciding their price depending upon the stage of the PLC for their product or services. So, the first one is price skimming. People think that skimming the cream is always used while introducing a product. Yes, of course they are right. It is commonly used while introducing a product at the stage of introduction, and it is a practice of charging a higher price on a new product. Having said new product, I mean to indicate that customers had no prior experience of using such product or service, and here marketers are charging a higher price in order to recover the cost and maximize profit as quickly as possible. And later on what happened? The price is then dropped when the product or service is no longer unique. So you wait for that uniqueness to exhaust, and once the product becomes fairly old, or it is no longer unique for a customer, then of course you have to drop the price. Otherwise your customers will start thinking of other alternatives, which of course in due course of time they must have entered the market. So price skimming is, or what you call as skimming the cream, it is commonly used pricing strategy at the time of the introduction of a product. So at the stage of introduction, skimming the cream policy is used. Some students of mine, they ask, sir, so it means market penetration cannot be used at the time of introduction? Answer is no. It can also be used at the time of introduction. I will be telling you. So penetration pricing can also be used while introducing a product. So it is not compulsory that at every time at the stage of introduction you would follow skimming the cream only. You can, depending upon the orientation of your company, the basic approach of your company, you can also use a penetration pricing while introducing a product. So this is a method used to build sales by charging a low initial price to keep unit cost to customers as low as possible. So here you want the huge number of customers with you, you want the higher market share with you, and for that you are following penetration pricing. So from the very initial stage you have decided, you have chosen to charge a lower price, low initial price, to keep keep unit cost to consumers as low as possible. So to the possible extent you are charging the lower price. And once you have introduced your new product through penetration pricing or price skimming, you need to adjust your prices so that they are more attractive to customers by using psychological pricing. Once you have introduced your pricing, either it is skimming the cream or penetration pricing, you can keep on changing depending upon the requirement of the market. So once you have decided your orientation, that yes, this is my orientation, I would go for skimming the cream or I would go for market penetration. So after that, at a later stage, you can think of changing your prices. And here comes the role of psychological pricing, or what you call as pricing techniques. So psychological pricing, as the term itself is indicating, a pricing technique most often used by retail businesses, which is based on belief that customers' perception of a product are strongly influenced by price. And when I say psychological pricing, there are different terms which come in front of us as prestige pricing, odd even pricing, price lining, promotional pricing, multiple unit pricing, and bundle pricing. So these are the different terms which come in front of us when we talk about the psychological pricing techniques. So what is prestige pricing, odd even pricing, price lining, promotional pricing, multiple unit pricing, and bundle pricing? So all these are the different shades or different colors of psychological pricing techniques. So my dear learners, to have a greater clarity on the topic, I would like to reiterate that I told you that initially what we have to do while crafting our strategy, we have to decide the basic approach of my company, what is my basic pricing approach, and then we have to decide that which method I am going to follow, and accordingly you have to keep on changing the pricing techniques depending on the different stages of PLC. So skimming the cream and or penetration, any of these two may be adopted by a marketer at the introduction stage, and later on they are actually making changes with the different colors of psychological pricing techniques. Now let me tell you what is prestige pricing. A business can use prestige pricing to foster a high-end image, and the term itself is indicating the pricing is called prestige pricing. It is a technique in which higher than average prices are used to suggest status and prestige to the customer. So higher than the average price is being charged just to give a reflection that this company is offering you a product which is precious, which is prestigious. So we call it prestige pricing strategy. And when a business uses and when you feel that your penetration price, your what you call as skimming the cream policy is being used, along with that you are actually going for prestige pricing. So pricing technique is in which you are charging higher than the average prices. Next comes odd even pricing. So customers may think that they are getting a bargain. When I say odd even pricing, a pricing technique in which odd numbered prices are used to suggest bargains. For instance, 99 rupees, 19.99 rupees. So it is giving a psychological indication to a customers that they are getting a bargain here. and somehow at the time of growth, it is being used by marketers. So a store which is selling all items at fixed price, say to 20 rupees, 40 rupees, 100 rupees and so on, they are being called as a company using price lining. So if I have to define price lining, it is a pricing technique in which items in a certain quality category, they are priced the same. So in a certain category you are charging the same price, so this is called price lining. And the next one is promotional pricing. Of course, if you are offering pricing, it is a technique in which lower prices are offered for a limited period of time to stimulate sales. So when you are witnessing somehow decline in the PLC, you may offer such kind of pricing benefits to the customers. This is called promotional pricing. And there is also a strategy called multiple unit pricing. When a store sells 3 pairs of socks, for instance, for rupees 100, it is using multiple unit pricing. So it is a technique in which items are priced in multiples, for instance 3 items for say 100 rupees or 99 rupees or so. So my dear learners, once you have entered into the market, once you have introduced your product at introductory prices, depending on the different stages of the PLC, different pricing methods can be adopted by a marketer. So in this way, we have learned what are the different pricing techniques which are being used by a marketer after introducing a product at different stages of their PLC. I hope you must have enjoyed this very segment of my lecture on pricing strategy and decisions. Thank you so much.